Married at First Sight Season 20 Episode 12 Review. Nothing was left on the table, and baby, neither was anybody's business. Loudly crying popcorn. Spoiler alert. This review discusses Married at First Sight Season 20, Episode 12, Nothing Left on the Table. Chiley, somebody needs to explain something to me. When did Married at First Sight turn into Married at First Interrogation? Because Season 20, Episode 12 said forget romance, forget cute dates, forget learning your spouse's favorite color, we are gathering around this table to discuss everybody's business. And apparently privacy was not invited to dinner. Episode 12, appropriately titled, Nothing Left on the Table, continued the second group dinner, and the title told absolutely no lies. Feelings, on the table, accusations, on the table, marriage problems, throw those on there too. Confessions, bring the whole platter. At this point I was waiting for somebody to pull out screenshots, bank statements and a PowerPoint presentation. This episode reminded me why the group gatherings are becoming some of the most entertaining parts of Season 20. Put these couples alone with their spouses and everybody wants to whisper, avoid the issue and pretend everything is fine. Put them around a dinner table. Suddenly everybody has a doctorate in somebody else's marriage. Let's get into this mess. That group dinner was not about the food. Can we discuss this dinner? Because nobody came there to eat. They came to investigate. The tension carried over from episode 11, where the second group dinner took a turn and one husband ended up in the hot seat. Episode 12 basically said, "Oh, you thought we were finished?" Absolutely not. The table became a courtroom. Everybody had questions. Everybody had opinions. Everybody had something they supposedly heard, noticed, suspected or needed explained. And that is always dangerous on Married at First Sight because these couples barely know their own spouses. How are you suddenly an expert on somebody else's marriage? You've been married for 5 minutes yourself. Please focus on the stranger sleeping next to you. That's what makes these group dinners so messy and so entertaining. People start comparing relationships. Why don't you two hold hands? Why aren't y'all intimate? Why did he say that? Why did she tell us something different? Baby, worry about why your husband is sitting 3 chairs away looking like he's waiting for an Uber. The accusations started flying. One of the biggest parts of episode 12 involved a couple becoming defensive over accusations being made against them. And listen, defensive energy at a MAFS dinner is like gasoline near a candle. Everybody immediately starts thinking, wait a minute, why are you getting so upset? But sometimes people get defensive because they're hiding something. And sometimes they get defensive because 7 strangers are sitting around discussing their marriage like it's the season finale of a daytime talk show. Both things can be true. This is where I found the episode interesting. There is a difference between accountability and everybody piling onto one couple because the conversation is entertaining. These people are already trying to build marriages with strangers while cameras follow them around. Then they have to sit at dinner while the other couples analyze every argument they've had. I would have been like, can I get my food to go? Because this dinner was giving deposition. The confession, and then came the moment that changed the temperature in the room. A husband made a confession. And the group was stunned. Now this is what Married at First Sight is best. Everybody can sit around talking about communication styles for 20 minutes, but the second somebody says something unexpected. Camera 1, shocked face. Camera 2, another shocked face. Camera 3, somebody slowly drinking their beverage. Camera 4, the spouse staring like, you really said that in front of everybody. Production knows what they're doing. That confession created one of those classic MAFS moments where you could practically hear everybody at the table thinking, should I say something? Yes. Because these people never keep quiet. There could be a meteor headed directly toward Seattle and somebody at that table would still say, before we leave, I just want to circle back to what you said about your marriage. Run. The problem with group therapy without the therapists. Here's something I noticed. These group dinners are starting to function like unofficial therapy sessions. Except there's one problem. These people are not the experts. They are participants in the experiment. Sometimes another couple can give useful advice because they're experiencing the same process. But other times, baby, it's the blind leading the blind. Imagine somebody whose own marriage is hanging together with duct tape and prayer looking across the table telling you how to communicate. Sir, go home. Your spouse hasn't spoken to you since breakfast. That's what makes this format entertaining, though. Everybody becomes more honest when the entire group is together. Things that couples might avoid privately suddenly get dragged into the open. And once something is said at that dinner table, you cannot put the toothpaste back in the tube. Some couples are actually thinking about life after the experiment. Thankfully, the entire episode wasn't people arguing over dinner. We also saw some couples beginning to discuss their futures and exploring where they might want to live. And that is the conversation I want from Married at First Sight. Because eventually the cameras leave. Decision day happens. Production packs up. And then what? Where are y'all living? Whose career takes priority? Are you moving? Are you combining finances? Do you want children? What kind of lifestyle do you want? Those conversations matter because marriage isn't just about whether you think somebody is attractive or whether you can survive a honeymoon. You have to build an actual life together. And discussing where you're going to live can expose major differences fast. One person might say, "I'm open to moving," and the spouse hears, "Great, start packing tomorrow." No, that's not what they said. These conversations showed which couples might actually be thinking beyond the experiment. Because you cannot stay in the MAFS bubble forever. Eventually somebody has to pay the electric bill. Chemistry isn't enough. Season 20 keeps reminding us that chemistry and compatibility are two completely different things. You can have chemistry with somebody and still have absolutely no business being married to them. We've all seen relationships like that. They can laugh together, flirt together, have amazing physical chemistry. Then ask them where they want to live in 5 years and suddenly one wants Seattle and the other wants to move across the country. Oops. Marriage requires boring conversations too. Money, housing, career, family, children, lifestyle, religion, responsibilities. Those topics aren't as sexy as romantic dinners, but they tell you whether a relationship can actually work. Episode 12 started pushing some couples toward those conversations. And that's important because decision day is not going to care how cute the honeymoon pictures were. Can everybody stop discussing everybody else's marriage? Now let me be shady for a minute. Because some of these people are way too invested in everybody else's situation. Ma'am, sir, go home and work on your marriage. I understand why producers bring the couples together. It's reality television. We need drama. But some cast members will sit at these dinners giving relationship TED Talks while their own spouse is sitting beside them looking miserable. How are you counseling somebody else? You need office hours yourself. That's why I laugh when someone starts giving advice like, "Well, in a healthy marriage." Stop. You've known your spouse approximately 3 Tuesdays. Let's not get carried away. But sometimes the group does see what the couple can't. Here's the flip side. Sometimes outsiders notice things that people inside the relationship don't see. Especially when you're desperately trying to make a marriage work. You might excuse behavior because you want the experiment to succeed. You might say, "They're just adjusting. They're nervous. They need more time. They don't communicate well." Meanwhile everybody else is looking at you like, "Baby, wake up." That's where the group dynamic can actually help. A good friend should tell you the truth. The problem comes when concern becomes gossip. And on Married at First Sight, that line is thinner than a paper plate. Season 20 has changed the MAFS formula. I have to say Season 20 feels different. This Seattle season has leaned heavily into the group dynamic. The couples aren't just operating in separate bubbles anymore. They're interacting, comparing, questioning, challenging, and sometimes irritating the hell out of each other. That creates a different kind of pressure. On older seasons, a couple might have problems without knowing what everybody else was experiencing. Now, you can look across the room and see another couple doing better. That's going to create comparisons. Why doesn't my husband do that? Why doesn't my wife talk to me like that? Why are they already planning their future? Why are we arguing about holding hands? Comparison can destroy a relationship quickly. Especially a relationship that started at the altar. My episode 12 report card. Drama, 9/10. That dinner table earned its paycheck. Messiness, 10 out of 10. Everybody had something to say. Romance, 6/10. We had bigger problems. Communication, 5/10. Everybody was communicating. Whether anybody was actually listening is another question. Shadiness, 9/10. The side eyes deserved their own Peacock spin-off. Entertainment, 9/10. Episode 12 kept things moving. Who is actually ready for marriage? This is the question I kept asking while watching. Not, who likes each other. Not, who has chemistry. Not, who had sex. Who is actually ready to be somebody's spouse? Those are completely different questions. Being married requires you to communicate when you're embarrassed. It requires you to listen when you don't agree. It requires you to discuss uncomfortable subjects. It requires compromise. And most importantly, it requires understanding that winning an argument isn't the same thing as fixing the marriage. Some of these couples seem more concerned with proving they're right than understanding their spouse. You can win every argument and still end up divorced. Congratulations on the trophy. The dinner exposed something bigger. The biggest takeaway from episode 12 wasn't necessarily one confession or one accusation. It was how quickly these marriages are being tested. These couples started as complete strangers. Now they're dealing with intimacy, finances, communication, living arrangements, attraction, group opinions and future planning. That's a lot, but they signed up for Married at First Sight. The title was not dating somebody slowly for 6 months and seeing what happens. You got married at first sight. So unfortunately, the pressure cooker comes with the package. My final verdict: Married at First Sight Season 20 Episode 12 was messy, and I enjoyed it. Nothing Left on the Table was the perfect title because everybody's business ended up right there beside the dinner plates. The accusations created tension. The defensiveness made everything worse. The confession stunned the group. And the future planning conversations reminded us that beneath all the reality TV chaos, these couples have a serious decision coming. But my biggest question after episode 12 is simple. Which couples are building actual marriages, and which couples are simply surviving long enough to reach decision day? Because those are not the same thing. Some couples are discussing their futures. Some are trying to strengthen their emotional connections. And some, chilly, they might want to start Googling divorce attorneys just in case. The clock is ticking. Decision day is getting closer. Feelings are getting deeper. Problems are getting harder to hide. And after this dinner, everybody knows everybody's business. Pass the dessert. I'm staying for the mess. Your turn. Ice popcorn. What did you think about Married at First Sight Season 20 Episode 12? Who was wrong at that group dinner? Did the other couples have a right to question what was happening, or were they too deep in somebody else's marriage? And most importantly, which Season 20 couples do you think will actually say yes on decision day? Drop your predictions in the comments and tell me who you're rooting for. If you enjoyed this review, share it with another Married at First Sight fan, follow the blog for more reality TV recaps, and come back for my next Season 20 review. Because if episode 12 taught us anything, it's this. The marriages might be uncertain, but the mess is fully committed. Tears of Joy Popcorn. Hashtag Married at First Sight. Hashtag MAFS #MOF Season 20 Married at First Sight Season 20 Hashtag MAFS Seattle. Hashtag Reality TV. Hashtag Reality TV Recap. Hashtag MAFS Review. Hashtag Decision Day. Hashtag Peacock.